Let's begin with the countdown to conduct of the primaries by major political parties for the 2023 elections. As the parties put finishing touches to preparation for the primaries, the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, has adjusted its schedule of activities for the elections. According to a statement by the APC spokesman, Felix Moka, the special convention to pick the party's presidential candidates earlier fixed for May 30th to June 1st will now hold from May 29th to May 30th. Now, the primaries to select candidates for governorship and House of Representatives polls has been fixed for May 26th, while that of Senate and the State House of Assembly will hold May 27th instead of earlier dates of May 25 and 22nd. Julie, I was told that, look, this will enable the party to be able to send their delegate list to INEC as required, clear 1 week ahead of any of this exercise, that it is stipulated so that they won't run foul of the Electoral Act, that the electoral umpire, they require those political parties to send the names of the delegates so that they will be able to discern. So APC that had earlier fixed 30th of May, they're now saying that, okay, we're bringing it to 29th. That is earlier. Does this add up to you?
Yes, clearly from the calculations being made by political pundits, the two parties are watching one another, and it appears the APC wants to see what PDP decides to do before it takes action. So the way it is now, APC will kick off their own exercise after the PDP must have concluded theirs. I don't know exactly what they want to achieve, but we've been told that they want enough time to be able to address petitions, protests, and all that may arise from the exercise. That's why they are creating enough time, enough window to be able to take care of all the protests and petitions that may result from the thing. But it's clear that they want the PDP to conduct the exercise first before taking this decision, because naturally you expect that before now everything will have been borne in mind before deciding at that time that this was their timetable, to then come back and say, no, we are going to do it at this time, after the PDP had set theirs in motion. It shows that they are trying to, it's like a football game. You are deciding based on the tactics that the opponent comes up with. So that's what I see. If you observe, the two parties appear to have been copying one another. The APC especially copying the PDP. You know, when the PDP decided that all the previous positions held by the North should revert to the South, it was the same decision that the APC took, which prompted some people to start thinking that the APC had decided to shift power to the South, but no such decision was actually taken. So you can see now, you're waiting for the PDP to make its move, see what transpired in respect of the exercise involving the PDP before beginning their own, so that they, I don't know, it's just a watching game that we are seeing.
And obviously, as the BKO said, it's a watching game. Some other parties that I wouldn't say they are inconsequential parties, you find them, instead of them to conduct their convention tomorrow or next tomorrow, because the window is open to them. Do you know that most of these other parties, they've lined up 2nd of June, a night before the deadline, to hold their own convention so that whatever will be the fallouts from this PDP 28th of May and APC 29/30. So some people can still run 440 to come to their own seat. I don't know the way politicians, the way they do their calculations.
Absolutely. I agree with BKO. It's a watching game, and what you have just mentioned now is still part of the calculation. You see, though you may think they are inconsequential, but they are political parties. They are vehicles.
Vehicles to get
to power. And because they are vehicles, it doesn't matter whether they have members or not. They can always have a presidential candidate. And I guess what they are also thinking is that the fallout from APC and PDP, they could also benefit from it. So I guess that is why they are not too eager to conduct their primaries before the two major political parties. Because if they do, it means that they may not be able to change so many things. So it's actually, when you watch PDP and APC, you tend to think that the two of them are siblings in rivalry, just trying to watch one another. Both of them are targeting the same thing. They are targeting the same thing. So they are just watching, how can we get it? And if it doesn't work out this way, how else can we get it? So there is really no difference between the two. If you remember, PDP also shifted his own primary too. And when it shifted, APC was the one that was to do. And even me, I was expecting APC to shift its date, and it did, because you know that both are just watching themselves, and it's all about political game, really. And I think everybody is just interested in getting to that position of power, which on its own isn't a bad idea. You know, everybody wants to win, but I also guess that at the end of the day, June 2nd will soon be here, whether they like it or not.
BQ, one thing is certain. The Independent National Electoral Commission, they've said it clearly that they're not ready to shift anything. Yes. That the deadline is a deadline. That if they shift any of these dates, it will alter the 2023 election timetable. So the parties, they should just get their act together. They don't have any choice.
The whole thing is even governed by law. The whole exercise. There is a time ceiling within which the whole exercise should have been conducted. You cannot conduct it outside of that time ceiling, that deadline. So if you conduct it outside the deadline, you created a big problem for the INEC. And INEC is not prepared to create problems for itself because of the undisciplined attitude of and selfish attitude of politicians. Politicians, when they were calling for this, I'm like, what's wrong with these people? And even some politicians that you expect that they are very steady upstairs. They are the same people calling the INEC and saying, look, this thing is not possible. Why don't you move it? Why don't you move it? And INEC stood his ground and no,
we are not going to party and
we are not going to move this thing. We are not going to move it. Now let us see whether, because INEC failed to move this, whether they won't be able to do primaries. They just want to be spoon-fed, to be treated like a spoiled child. This is what they want to do.
now.
Yes.
Most
now,
of them.
They will do this thing.
Parties.
The notice was long enough for these parties to come together and conduct this exercise. But they continue to kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road. When you catch up with the can, they kick it further down the road. What's going on? Now they are monitoring one another, all just to ensure that this party does not gain an advantage over me. It's not the first time they are doing. Every election season, they do this. Because if you remember, APC exploited
in 2014.
In 2014, they exploited the disagreement in the PDP, and they welcomed PDP members
24 hours.
vote. Honestly, if not for the massive defection from the PDP to the APC, there's no way the APC will have formed power.
They amended their constitution,
losing all those governors,
to make sure that
losing even a former vice president Atiku and the rest who walked out at that time, and many governorship candidates too, or aspirants, they moved to the PDP, to the APC. So they want to create a situation in which the enemy or a former enemy who failed to grab the ticket here, who is strong enough, can come to our party, and our party can reap bountifully from that exercise, that happenstance. That's what they are getting. And I don't blame the other parties. They have trained, these two big parties have taught the smaller parties how to conduct this business. You will see now the NPP and the rest of them, they are going to harvest disgruntled elements from both parties. And they are going to win some seats.
All right.